Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant Chess Wise. Today we are going to look at the next topic, that is the opening for white, and we are going to look at the Sicilian counter attack. Let us see what is Sicilian counter attack. After the moves e4, c5, nf3, we are about to learn the Sicilian pulsar. The move e6 can take us to Sicilian pulsar, and before we start learning the lines of Sicilian pulsar, I thought this is a side line which is called the Sicilian counter attack. We should know about it. White plays d4, cd4, and d4. For all the advanced players, they know about the concept of Sicilian pulsar usually, especially those who play e4 with white and those who play Sicilian with black. In the Paulson or Khan variation, black wants to play a6, put the queen on c7, knight c6, and he develops his queen side first as compared to the king side. Bishop often finds itself on the b4 square. So that is why the move e6 has kept this bishop's diagonal open. Black often goes b5, bb7, and he completes the queen side development quickly. But before we venture to the move a6, I thought that it's very important to know a bit about a sideline here. See, the most obvious move for black other than a6 is nf6, doing development with attack, to which we see at first, see, e4 is attacked, and of course white can play bd3, but then we can go into such lines of pulsar, see, where black has omitted the move a6 and bd3 line, which we are going to play against pulsar in same kind of position. There will be no a6, so maybe white will lose a tempo there. So the line which we must know is the move c3, to which it looks like the move bishop b4, which causes some problem to the white center. So this is called the Sicilian counter attack, the move bb4. Here black has to know some other moves as well, like firstly the move a6. Black now simply tries to go into lines of pulsar without playing bb4 first. Means now these can take us to pulsar lines, but black has committed nf6 first. In pulsar, normally black waits with the development of the king side pieces, especially the g8 knight. In some lines he can play knight f6, in others he plays knight to e7. So this is one which we need to know. Here white is able to exploit the untimed move a6. White plays the move e5. So what we can say, black has played a bit against the opening principles. He allows his knight to get attacked. So black is not having a pawn on d6 and he plays nf6. So of course e5. And now we see that the knight is in serious trouble. The knight has to go to g8. Let's look at the move knight d5, which looks decent at first, but after knight into d5, pawn takes d5, the pawn structure is ruined, the doubled and isolated pawns are on the open file. So immediately white is able to exploit. The knight moves away. We can already see white has more development. So white doesn't hesitate to waste the move. He is attacking the d5 pawn. And if black tries to generate counterplay by the move qb6, then queen takes d5, bishop c5, and it looks like black has managed some counterplay. He is attacking the f2 pawn, and if white has to play qd2, then he will be a bit passive over here. But white manages to turn the tables around with the strong move bishop c4. So white simply says, you have violated so many opening principles, I can just give back the pawn on f2 and I will put pressure on f7. So after the move bishop f2 check, ke2, the king looks misplaced, but the rooks get connected and soon the rook will join from the f5. First the threat is queen f7 check. So after castle, white snatches the initiative after rook f1, forcing the bishop to go back and knight g5. And we see that there is no defense to the threat of rook f7 or nf7, which would lead to a winning position for white. Let's go back to the main position now. After the move e5, black has to play the move knight g8. So we can easily make out that white has taken over the initiative. White has 3 developments more. Usually I will count the pawn on 5th rank as a development. The pawn gains space over here, and on top of that we can see that the move is white's. So black is trying to get the break with d6 and try to remove the white pawn on e5 and then try to complete his development. We can see that as it is, black is behind in development. White stops the plan with the move bishop f4. Here black can try 2 things. Either he can try to give the pawn up by playing d6 and try to recover it, okay? Or else he can try the move bishop b4. So we will have a look at both the moves. After the move d6, it looks like after ed bd6, black can recover the pawn and complete his development by nf6 castle. Although even if that would have worked, we can see that white's development is more. But whenever side has extra development and opponent is trying to break the center, he is on the receiving end of tactics. So which is what happens here. White has the strong move ne6, after which bishop into e6, the queen was attacked, and now just queen into d6. So white gets the pawn here. He has the bishop pair. He is about to castle long, and soon the h rook will come on the e5 and white will have a winning position here. The other move, bishop b4 here, we see that black is trying to attack the c3 knight. Maybe he intends to play queen f5 and get his knight to the e7 square. So basically he is not letting his bishop on f8 blocked by playing any e7 right now. But knight e7 should be played here. We will look at that also. As soon as the f8 bishop leaves, those who can relate this position to the French defense systems where white plays nc3, we discussed about it in the Whenever lessons. They know that the white move qg4, in this case we will see that is very annoying for black, because the g7 weakness is pinpointed. White is about to castle long, his bishop is coming to d3, and as compared to the French defense positions, here white has many tempi extra. So white is clearly better. Bishop c3 bc would keep the dark squares very weak. We can see the d6 and f6 squares. Black has to play g6, after which white just plays bd2, stopping bishop c3, and we see that the whole on d6 and f6 soon will be occupied by this knight coming to e4, when we see that black will be in an almost losing position. So white is about to go castle followed by knight e4 and penetrate his knight on any of these squares. And bishop c3 would also allow the weakness of either b4 f8 diagonal or d2 h6 diagonal or c3 h8 diagonal. One of the 3 will be exploited by white. So we can say that this position is clearly better for white. So if black continues with the move d5, e into d6, bishop d6, long castle, black can try the move e5, trying to attack the knight and the queen both. But as we have discussed so many times, that side who is behind in development, his tactics never works. So here white has to save his queen and protect the knight from going. So he has the simple move queen e2, after which we see the pawn on e5 is pinned, knight cannot be taken, black is going to experience serious problems on the d5. So this position is clearly better for white. Let's go to the main move ne7 now. After the move ne7, white continues with his normal development. He wants the bishop to a good diagonal. So we can see that c4 to g8 diagonal is right now blocked. So bishop wants to come to d3, attacking h7, and white will go castle. So bishop d3, black goes knight b c6, when knight into c6, followed by castle. And we see that white's development is almost complete over here. We would like to go to g4 or the h5 squares and rook will control the d and the e file. Let's say black plays the move d6 now, then again e into d6, bishop takes d6, bishop into d6, queen takes d6, rook e1. White just improves the position, and we see that black cannot castle here. Of course, after castle, bishop h7 check and the queen would be lost, and we see that here black is unable to improve his pieces very easily. If black plays bd7, idea long castle, then white just goes queen h5, keeping pressure on the f7 pawn, and soon rook will join the d1 square. And we will see that before black is able to complete his development, white's attack has already started. So maybe he has to play the move g6 when queen f3 looks like a very good candidate for white. Knight e5 lost, queen f6 double attack, so the knight would be lost. So this position is perhaps winning for white. Let's go to the main variation now. Now we reach the main line. After the move bb4, white plays the obvious move e5. White tries to attack the knight, and he tries to exploit the fact that the f8 bishop has moved, so he wants to bring attack on the g7 pawn with the move qg4. So the line today we are going to discuss is the move ne4. In the next part we will discuss the move knight d5 in full detail. After knight e4, white goes qg4, instantly challenging the black position. The knight on e4 is attacked and the g7 pawn is attacked. Here we have got three main moves. One is f5, black can try to protect the knight on e4. Second is the move nc3, which happens to be the main line. And the third move, bishop c3 bc followed by queen a5, or directly playing the move queen a5, which can lead us to the same position. First let's have a look at the move f5. After f5, just queen takes g7, the h8 rook is attacked, rook f8, and here white simply has the strong move knight b5. The knight takes care of the c3 knight, the knight on b5 eyes the weak square on d6. So whenever knight into c3, then b into c3, not only the bishop is attacked, white is threatening bg5 and nd6 both. And we also note that white has another threat. See, the king on e8 is very badly placed and the diagonal has become weak. So white is threatening be2 followed by bh5. So which is going to give him a winning position. So f5 fails badly. A very important move happens to be the move qa5, or the move bishop c3 bc qa5, which can transpose. We will see from the move order bishop c3 bc queen a5, which will of course transpose if we would have played qg7 to queen a5. Then also after bishop c3 bc we reach the same position. Now queen c3 check. It looks like white king is also in serious trouble. d4 is attacked, a1 is attacked. But after the very strong move king e2, see, the king is also becoming weak. But why we are saying that white is better over here? If we take a look at the black king side, we see that nothing is available on the king side. The attackers near the black king is the queen, and this dark diagonal which is weak is often exploited in the line bishop a3. The bishop comes to a3 and soon black gets mated. Another point that we see, queen c4 check is often refuted by the move kf3 or e3 when the queen gets attacked and the h8 rook is also hanging. So here let's look at some interesting analysis. Here there are four moves in all. After the move rook f8, white just goes bh6. Ignoring the knight and the rook, he threatens queen f8 mate. So we see that the queen has to somehow try to control the f8 square, after which we can just trade on f8 and remain exchanger. Since the move queen c4 ke3 makes the situation even worse. Now the knight is hanging, and we see now after the move qc5, queen f8, bishop f8, kf8 and ke4. There he will be a rook down. After the move queen d4. We see that queen h8 check, ke7, bishop a3 check. We see that the move knight c5 is at least possible now. If the queen would have taken a1, then the move knight c1 would not be possible. So now after knight c5, rook d1, and again we see that there is nothing much that black can do. The c5 knight is attacked. It is somehow supported by the queen. The knight is pinned. The rook attacks the queen. Queen cannot take on e5, and after the move queen e4 check, we see that kd2, and nothing much can be done by black. So after the move queen d4 check, again we can just play bishop d3, queen f2 check, kc1, and white wins. Move qc4 check. I think the best move is king f3. The queen is attacked and the c5 knight is attacked and the rook is opened up. Although we can consider the move rook d3 as well, because rook d3, then there is no fear of losing the bishop with the move queen c3, and the king is making space on d1. After the most obvious move b6, we see that queen h8 check, ke7, bishop a3 check, d6. Now see, white has taken the rook and he is okay if the queens get traded. So here he uses the tactic knight c6. If knight takes c6, then e into d check followed by queen into c3, when he will remain an exchange up. And after the move queen takes c6, e into d6 check, and we see that white has escaped from the threat of bishop a6. Position we can say after the move kd7 is winning for white. White can simply play the move queen b2, keeping the c3 square under control, and after the move bishop a6 check, the king can go to the e3 square. So the lines look bit complicated and risky, but if we check them properly, we see that in each and every variation white has a very good position. Most of the lines are winning for white. Let's look at the main line now. After the main move nc6 here, black is trying to set a trap that if h8 is taken, then black will get b6 and bishop a6 with a tempo when the rook would attack the queen. So white can simply play safe. He can play the move knight b5 when he is eyeing the d6 square, and after queen a1 he can go for queen h8, ke7, bishop a3 check. So black has to play the move knight d4, when after knight takes d4, b6, trying to use bishop a6 check, and now white has the move bishop e3. So white has created place on the f3 square, so bishop a6 check will not be a mate, and after the move queen a1 we can take the rook on h8 with a check. So queen a1, queen h8 check, ke7, simply removing the queen away from the rank, and white wins the game. So to bishop a6 check, we can just play the king to f3 when the king is quite safe. Do note that ba6 check, king f3, qd1 check, it's possible to play king into e4, and after bishop b7, king is perfectly safe on the f4 square. So the main variation happens to be the move knight c3. Let's go to that line. After the move knight e4, qg4, the main line happens to be knight c3. When white plays qg7, now black has to play the move rook f8, since any knight's discovered check allows the move c3. When we see that the h8 rook is hanging, so after the move knight c3, first queen into h8 would be there. So rook f8, and now white has to find the correct move here, which happens to be a3. So I find this as a very useful preparation because although this line is not very popular at the highest level, at the intermediate level, we can say around 1800 to 2200 rating range, this can be a very effective opening for black. Now the bishop has place on a5. There are some other moves like qb6 and qh4 which transpose. Let's look at the lines one by one. After the move bishop a5, white first attacks the rook with bishop h6, forcing the queen to leave the support of the bishop. After queen e7 comes knight b3. When we see that the threat of qf8 and threat of knight a5 both are unstoppable, if the bishop moves then just b into c3, and after the move knight c6, white can simply capture knight a5 and bc3. Right now the pieces are equal, but queen into f8 is unstoppable and white will remain an exchange up and get a winning position. After the move qb6 or qh4, we get to the same position after the moves ab4, qb4, and it looks like again white has to find the correct move. So same idea, bishop goes to h6, queen into b4 can be taken and queen e4 check can be played. After queen e4 check, just king d2 attacking the knight, and after qd4 check again we can just play bishop d3 when the knight would be hanging and the f8 rook also would be attacked. Queen takes b4. Idea is to protect the f8 rook and bc, then queen c3 check and a1 is hanging. So white has a simple move here. Queen f8 check, queen takes f8, bishop takes f8, king takes f8 and bc3. We can see that the pawns are equal and white is an exchange up. Bishop will soon join d3, harass the h7 pawn, and white will be able to create a passer on the king side. So this is again a winning position for white. After the move a3, black has two other options. One, knight b5 check followed by grabbing the d4 knight, and second is queen a5. So first white attacks the black queen with the move knight b3. Queen goes to d5, threatening mate on d1, and white just plays the move bishop d3. When we see that now black is in serious trouble. At present black is a piece up, but we will see that he is about to lose much more material. Right now the first threat is ab4, and then he will be able to take bc3. Along with that, we also know that ph6 is coming up. So after the bishop a5, we can say that knight a5, queen a5, there can be bd2, or even stronger bishop h6, forcing the queen to support f8. When after takes, we take the knight on c3 at the end. After nb3, black can try knight d5 check, a into b4. Knight protects the rook as well, so qb4 check, and now just king d1. Again same problems, white is threatening bh6, and right now the pieces are equal. After bh6, white would be an exchange up. In order to avoid these tactics, black can try to keep his knight on e4 as well. Knight e4 check, a into b4, queen into b4 check, c3, knight into c3, bishop h6, again knight e4 check, white has the move knight d2. So currently we see that again the material is equal. After the move knight d2, we first take on f8, queen f8, queen f8, bishop f8. When after kf8, kd2, white remains an exchange up. Black can use the intermezzo nb3, attacking the rook and bishop both, but white has got the move rook a3. The rook again attacks the knight, and after kf8, rook b3, again white remains an exchange up. So let's look at the last move now. Black has the move knight b5. So black is going to take the d4 knight. So after the moves a b4, knight takes d4. So black has tried the most to complicate the things here. We see that the f8 rook is still attacked. We don't want the queen to come to e7, so white uses the move bishop g5. Very important move here. Queen goes to b6 so that after qb4 f8 can be supported. And now after the move bh6, qb4 check, c3, we again see this time that black is able to restore his material deficit. He will not lose the exchange after the only move knight f5. Well, after cb4, knight into g7. Do note that if cb4 is not taken, then queen and the bishop both are attacked. So after any move like qh7, qb2, it will be white who will be in the losing position. So cb4, knight g7, bishop takes g7, rook g8, bishop f6. And here we can say that the position has got settled. If we count the material, we see that both have 6 pawns each. White has the bishop pair and an open position. He is far ahead in development, and we see the weakness of h7 in the position. Let's take the game little further. After the moves nc6, bd3, knight b4, bishop into h7, the rook is attacked, and after the move rook g2, white has the strong move bishop e4, attacks the rook, keeps the c2 square guarded, and he is about to push h4, h5, h6, h7 when the h pawn is unstoppable. So after the move rook g4, f3, rook into e4, fe4, knight c2 check, kd2, knight a1, followed by rook into a1. So we are following one of the game here. When after few moves white won the game. After the move b6 here, white played h4, and when after bp7, king simply protects the pawn on e4, stops the bishop to come on this diagonal, and we see that black's task is very difficult, almost impossible to get control on the h8 square. Do note that only the rook is able to control h8, and the pawn will reach the h8 square by force, and white won the game. In another game, black played the move h6 here, to which white played h3, guarding the g4 square. After the move nb4, bishop h7, rook g2, black was ready to return the exchange. After king f1, rook g6, bg6, fg6, but even here white got a very strong play. After the move rook g1, king f7, rook a4, the knight had to move, and the rook entered the g4 square and got breakthrough from the g5, and white eventually won the game. I know this was quite an extensive analysis and the variations were quite detailed, but against such a sharp line we have to know the exact moves. I hope you are finding these lessons useful. Do like, share and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.